I thought, what a nice voice. The words were clear, were they not? And of course, you recognize the scripture. Yes? Got it. Yeah. Malachi 3:10. Well, let's look at that. Bring the full tithes into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house, and thereby put me to the test, says the Lord God of hosts, if I will not open the windows of heaven for you and pour down for you an overflowing blessing. That sounds like a lovely thing, doesn't it? But those words, prove me now. It's time to do that. Over the last, this is our 4th week, we've been talking about building a prosperity consciousness and building it on some stones, a foundation of truth. I've spoken about the 4 basic forms of human expression. And the first one we talked about was thinking, right? So to begin in our lives to think thoughts that are true thoughts. About the presence of our good, not the absence. About the presence of God, not the absence of God. About the presence of life and not the absence of life. That's a good stone to build on. When you build on that, then from thinking, you go to speaking, the second foundation stone. So you speak words that affirm those ideas of truth. You speak prosperity. You speak health. You speak love. You speak about God as an abiding presence with you and within you. And when you do these, you also start to see the presence of good, the presence of God in you and around you. And the last step is doing. Oh yeah, Greg, here's where it all breaks down, doesn't it? What do you mean I have to do something? I'm the guy who buys the self-help book, puts it on my shelf, and thinks my life ought to get better. Have you never done that? I'm alone. Oh, I feel so horribly, terribly alone. It's the doing where often we break down. Now, think about these 4 stones. What a foundation they make. Thinking, it's invisible. And from the invisible, through speaking, we bring it into the level of sound, into the visibility of sound. And then we move to seeing, which is light. From invisible, sound, light, and then expression, action, movement. See the progression that we have. To all of the stones with which we are building this consciousness of abundance, abundant life, abundant health, abundant love, abundant good in our world and in our own personal lives. An abundant and full structure of prosperity. Right doing is the last, but it certainly isn't the least of these. In the Gospel of John, 13th chapter, verse 17, Jesus said at the Last Supper, "If you know these things, happy are you if you do them." If you know these things, happy are you if you do them. These words Jesus spoke in that dark night at the Last Supper, well, they indicate to me that he really understood us. Not only his disciples who had their own failings, but us. How completely he understood us. He set the example. He even said, also in the 13th chapter, verse 15, I have given you an example that you should also do as I have done for you. But he knew. He knew how little chance there was that we would follow it, that we would follow him, that we would do these things. He knew even that the disciples would falter and fail many times. So he understood the depths of our human weakness. He understood that we would know the right way, but few of us would do the right way, would follow it and make it our way. I don't know about you, but how many times have you had great intentions, yeah? New class, new book, new Lenten study. I'm going to do this every day. I'm going to do it in day 1 or day 2 maybe, and day 3. Well, I'll do that a little later today. And about a week into it, oh, golly, I've forgotten it the last 3 or 4 days. I better try and catch up. Well, I'm too far behind now, so I'll just go from here. Well, oh, it's another week's gone by. You know how it is, right? I'm going to start praying for others. And that may work today. And then how long before we forget? For other things distract us. Jesus knew how few of us would make it our way. Happy are you if you do them. I loved my teacher, Ed Rabel. Dearly loved Ed Rabel. And there was a time in ministerial school where he had been asked to do an advanced class in metaphysics, you know. And finally, he agreed. He would be in the classroom a certain afternoon at a particular time, and those who were interested in the advanced class could come in. Well, that day arrived, and many showed up. And when Ed came into the room, he came to the front of the room and stood by a little tabletop lectern, and he said, "No, this is the advanced course. You are the advanced students. Here is the advanced teaching. Do it. Put it into practice." And he walked out. It's true. We read lots of books. But building a spiritual consciousness is not in the reading of many books, as Emily Cady said. It's throw them away. Yes, you've got to make the truth your own, but then it only works, and I've heard this in some meeting somewhere, if you work it. Otherwise, it happens haphazardly according to what you believe this moment or that moment or what you're thinking about now. You're going to get the good you want and you're going to get the other stuff because you are double-minded. You have great thoughts, beliefs, attitudes 1 minute, and the human part then goes down another trail another minute, and it changes. Why do we cling so to those things that from our own experience we know do not bring us what we want? Why do we do that? We've often seen it fail. We've often seen it bring challenges, yet we cling to it in spite of the results. Why do we do that? Now, I think it seems to take most of us a fair amount of time to pass through that phase, that cycle of sense consciousness, of looking at life through the outer world, the outer things, the things that come through our 5 human or physical senses. It takes a while to get to that place where we stop looking to the outside for our good and start looking to the inside, until we really come to the understanding it's an inside job. Oh Lord, let it be now. Let's do it now. Growth from the outer surface, seeking outside to inner creation, seems so slow. But the sooner we follow, I'm going to call it the Christ way. It was Jesus' way, but it's the way of that divine Christ in you, because it's founded upon spiritual principle and law that is unchanging. And following it, what happens? Our lives change. It changes for the better. It changes from challenge to growth. From growth to overcoming. From overcoming to power and dominion. That sounds pretty good. I was looking for where I could buy some power and dominion. And Jesus said, here it is. And then put that little catch in there. You just have to do it. On your bulletin, I put some quotes on the back. And I love this one from Charles Fillmore, Mysteries of John. In a well-balanced mind, understanding is followed by... In a well-balanced mind, understanding is followed by action. Understanding the principles, understanding the way this universe works, understanding how God works in and through you. When you have it, when you really have the understanding, when that truth stands under you and is a part of you, you do it. Charles Fillmore was pretty clear and talks on truth. And the third quote there, spiritual thinking is the pioneer that opens the way into the new birth. Remember, our first stone was thinking. That's the pioneer. But it must be followed by spiritual acting on the part of every faculty. Emily Cady can always be relied on for a good phrase and a powerful phrase, and in this case from Lessons in Truth. Unless you use for the service of others what God has already given to you, you will find it a long, weary road to spiritual understanding. Put it to use for the good of all. The things you do in life, do you choose to do them to the glory of God? Do you choose to do them as your gift back to the universe? Remember the law, the principle. Jesus talked about sowing and reaping. As you sow, what happens? And you reap what you sow. So in the giving is the receiving. So many times when you talk about service, we want to say, well, what's in it for me? You know, when you start giving help to people, it never ends. And when do we get our good? But if it is a law, as you give, so you receive, It's not the people you give to or the things in the world that you give to. It is the universe that gives back. You open yourself to the free flow of that divine intelligence, divine guidance, divine energy, divine substance. You can't lose if you give. Daily action. That would be a great thing, wouldn't it? A daily application of these principles. Putting these 4 stones, thinking, speaking, seeing, doing, into practice daily. That would be awesome. I think if we all did that, it wouldn't be long. You'd have to come in here with sunglasses on. You'd be so shiny bright, so radiant, with a power that is not your power, but God power moving and working through you. To follow the Christ way, to follow the principles that Jesus taught, would be life-changing. It would enhance your spiritual growth no end and make you a victor in this life. It'll help overcome the self, and I spell that with a small s, the human self, the limited, the human consciousness that there's only so much time, money, good, power. And it will help bring into fuller expression the Christ self with a capital S, which is a point of power, an awareness that infinite abundance surrounds and fills this entire universe. And it is for us to become one with it and become channels of it. What was Jesus' method? Faithful, earnest service. And I can include loving as well. Faithful, earnest, loving service. That's the way Jesus did it. When he was asked to come and heal somebody, he never said, well, wait a minute, what's in this for me? Or, well, it only costs so much. I got to meet my expenses. Or, take 2 aspirin. Call me next week. He came. He did. He was that beneficial presence. He expressed the divinity wherever he was, without regard for what was going to come to him, for him being paid back for the good that he accomplished. It was for the service of God. What do you get out of it? Oh, you can get so much out of it, but it depends on what you put into it. To keep in mind, to think of the presence of God, the abundance of God, the life of God, the health of God, and then to speak of these same things. Add sound, add light by seeing, beginning to look for these things in your world and acknowledge them in your world. Then they become expressed in your world, and you do. You give a kind word, a word of truth, a silent prayer for someone's healing or peace of mind. You give, well, because it's your nature. Meister Eckhart said we don't have to get God or coerce God to love us. It must, because that's its nature. To be of loving service, that too is our nature. To be a channel through which the power of God, the love of God, the good of God flows freely. Richard Lynch, one of our Unity writers, teachers, used to have a fantastic house up on Unity Ridge. Were you ever inside there, Tom? Oh, I tried to buy that house. Man, it was a stone fortress. When you looked at it from the road, there was no front door. Front door was on the porch was on the side. And there was a circular driveway that went around a large planting of evergreens, so you really couldn't see the front of the house from the road. Inside, the upstairs was one large great room, thick stone walls, beautiful fireplace, and at the end were stairs going down to the lower level. The house was built on the ridge, so the upper level was on the top of the ridge, and the lower level was down the side of the ridge. The lower level was the kitchen and maids' quarters. The upstairs, that beautiful great room, and then the doors were about, 3 inches thick. They were pretty fantastic inside with all this wrought iron hardware. And you opened a door at the end of the great room, and that went into a master suite that was a dressing room, a bathroom, and a private bedroom. You went downstairs, and then you could have dinner or lunch or whatever at the beautiful dining area, and then step out onto the side of the ridge looking out over this wonderful valley. When it was sold, the people couldn't wait to tear out the evergreens, add a 3-car garage on the side of the house where the porch was, and put a door right in the front of the house, on the front side of. Just my opinion, but I thought, how could they do that? Richard Lynch liked his privacy, and it was a very lovely, private, wonderful place. Well, he wrote this. What a joy work would be if we could substitute, I want to do this, for I have to do this. Oh, what a difference that attitude makes. I've told you about the time that I resigned from a band job, playing with a group. They had a reputation that when somebody gave notice, the last paycheck they would just withhold and make you either fight them for it or give up. So when I resigned, I said, no, I'm giving you 2 weeks' notice, and I also want to let you know that I will play these 2 weeks for free. They couldn't take it because I gave it. And it works when you are perfectly comfortable and happy with the arrangement. I want to do this rather than I have to do this. Oh, I'm sorry, but I don't do well with the things that I, in my head, think, oh, I have to do this, and I don't want to do this. And you know what it means, Jared. You drag your feet through it and grumble through it. The moment you can convert that to, I want to do this, it lifts the whole situation, and it lifts you. It's good for you. So, whatever you're doing, all things that you do, bless them. things, work, other things, the opportunity to serve, to be a beneficial presence in the world, all responds to blessing as if it were a person. It really does. Bless it. Put joy in it. And that's exactly what comes back out of it. Remember, what you sow, you reap. What you give, you receive. No matter what we're doing, what's before us, if we're doing it gladly, happily, and you heard me say earlier, to the glory of God. I can tell you the times I've stepped out and said, God, I do this unto you. I do this for your glory. When the disciples couldn't heal the man born blind, what did Jesus say about it? When they asked, who sinned, the man or his parents? Nobody. It's that the glory of God might be made manifest. Do this unto the glory of God. What you give, you will receive. Those 4 stones. Thinking from the invisible into speaking into sound. Sound is a pattern, and it should be the pattern based on truth of what you want, what you desire, not the sound of all the things you don't want, you don't like, you're not willing to do. From the invisible into sound, and then seeing into light, holding it in your mind, and looking for the God, looking for the good. And what happens? It goes into motion. You have set it into motion, and you begin to do. You look for ways to apply your understanding of truth. And you do this during every day and all your experiences. And what is it to apply your understanding, but to recognize and use God-given power? It's the knowledge that we don't work alone, that the Creator stands ready to work through you. Jesus said, "It is not I, but the Father within who performs the work." He stayed connected, tuned in, acknowledged the source. And we think, God, why do I have to do this? Well, you don't. But you have to recognize the power and presence of God with you in order to let it work through you, to open yourself up. Otherwise, you've got the switch turned off. You can live your life founded on this spiritual law, this spiritual principle. And you can build a structure of prosperity consciousness, which I include all things: health, wholeness, joy, peace of mind, friends, companionship, all things necessary by building a foundation on these 4 stones. Thinking, speaking, seeing, and then doing. And what a structure. It's not a house built upon sand. It will endure. And it can be eternal. And now, I'd like to once again repeat our opening affirmation. God and man, heaven and earth, and all the power within me, join together to prosper me. Together?